So that's why art is so important, particularly in conservation. Our relationship with the marine environment, our relationship with our soil, with the fish, all of that, their sensations, which are important data. I urge my scientist friends to talk about data, emotions being data.
Welcome to the Rising Lioness, where we celebrate the beauty and complexity of the natural world and the amazing people who advocate for it. Today, we're diving deep into the world of sharks, a majestic creature that is unfortunately facing a global extinction crisis. Our guest today is Dr. Raj Sekhar Aich, a true pioneer in the field of shark research. Not only is he an expert in marine anthropology and applied psychology, but he's also the first scientist to explore human-shark conflict in the Sundarban region and has created a unique transdisciplinary methodology in human shark research. Dr. Sekhar's book, Iridescent Skin, provides an intimate account of the existence of white sharks and challenges the stereotypes surrounding them. Throughout our conversation, we'll explore his commitment to shark conservation and research and the transformative impact of these experiences on public attitudes. We'll also emphasize the importance of a holistic approach to marine education and conservation. So get ready, folks. We are about to demystify the white shark and learn about the incredible work being done to protect them from one of the coolest and most fascinating dudes I have met in animal advocacy to date. And that is the truth. Raj, it's super great to have you here today. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you. I mean, this is a brilliant opportunity. Anytime I get to talk about sharks, it's always fun. And I know of your work. I know that how you've been independently trying to create this network and how you've been engaging people who often don't get the attention that is needed, not just for them, but to proliferate the work they're doing. So I think that is, you're doing really important work, my friend. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say. I appreciate it. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do here is give a platform for the people who are doing good work for the animals. And that is the purpose for us being here. So thank you. And it is great to have you here. And I was wondering if you could start with telling us a little bit about your background and how you developed your passion for sharks. And was that always your focal point, the focal point of your interest, or, did it develop over time? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to be as brief as possible, I suppose. I was born in a household of painters. My father is a painter. My brother is an artist. So that's where I was born. But as I was growing up, I realized that my life needed to take a different trajectory, and my exploration of the operational side of the brain, as opposed to the artistic side of the brain, I suppose, began there. I started, with my PhD in psychology. Then I had the opportunity of traveling to New Zealand and working on my second PhD in anthropology. That's, I was always fascinated by sharks. And, now that I think about it, that, the fascination about sharks have evolved over the years. When I was really young, I'm dyslexic. So when I was really young, I remember one of my first non-comic book was about sharks. And, seeing those images, that there's something so enticing about them. When I was really young, they symbolized a life beyond my normal existence. As I got older, they symbolized, sexiness and adventure and everything like that. Sharks are the coolest thing around. When I reached New Zealand and I started my second PhD, then sharks gave me the meaning to to go forward, a purpose. Now I think sharks are my language, you know, that I sleep, I eat, I make love, I think, everything I do is through the language of sharks. They are in my art, they're in my research, and yeah, that's my life.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, and I mean, yes, you have dual PhDs in marine anthropology and applied psychology, which is pretty awesome. And I'm curious, can you tell us more about how these two areas of study intersect and how you apply them to your work on human shark interactions?
Well, initially, my work started off in the trend of multi-species research and multi-species ethnography, and I was trying to make an argument that that multi-species research can be done with sharks, because when I started doing it, at that point there was no extensive ethnography with sharks, multi-species ethnography with sharks. So I was kind of trying to make an argument that that is possible. Um, And basically, the premise was that you try to learn the life of the animal other, in this case, sharks, as you're learning about the lives of the humans who are connected with them socially, ecologically, economically, and even physically at times. So that was the basic premise. And, so I finished that expedition and, I wrote my book. But when I came back to India, my aim was to actually look at the human-shark conflict that was going on in the Sundarban regions of West Bengal, which shocking to me that no, there was no academic investigation of that before that. But what I realized that, you know, multi-species perspective was not necessarily implementable in that perspective, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're in New Zealand, when you are in the US, when you are in Australia, you can see a shark in front of you. Yeah, you can see when you're doing activities like cage diving, they can be 10, 20 feet away from you. You can still see them. But in the murky waters of Sundarban, a big shark can be a couple of inches under the water. We'll not be able to see them. Mm. So the traditional way of trying to bring the shark into ethnographic research was not working. So that's when I started, hatching the plan. Okay, so what is actually happening here? That's when I started understanding more that how a transdisciplinary perspective was important there. And so basically, if you think about the from what I understand, the primary difference in transdisciplinary research as opposed to interdisciplinary research is that in transdisciplinary research, there are two different points. One, that you're including knowledge from the locals, and also you are, whatever science you're creating, it is for the common good. So in the Sundarbans, I started taking the methodology that I created in New Zealand, bringing in psychology, bringing in ecology, bringing in knowledge from the local people, and trying to understand how all of this fits together and what can we do for the betterment of both the sharks and the human beings that were engaged in this century-old conflict.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense and is extremely important and valuable. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that as we go on a little bit. And to that point, can you share with us what inspired you to start the Transdisciplinary Human Shark Lab and the goals you were trying to achieve with it?
Yeah, like I said, that basically it was because of my failures in Sundarban to use my original methods of just using multi-species ethnographic perspective. What I realized, I needed to bring in more different dimensions, and right now, I'm the director of the Transdisciplinary Lab at my university, Sundarbans University in Calcutta. Along there, I'm basically trying to create the infrastructure, like I'm saying, where we can bring all these different elements together, like the theoretical elements, transmodality, transdisciplinarity, and trans knowledge system. So basically, including art and sensory expressions as much as classic scientific knowledge. Then again, the scientific knowledge and local knowledge, all these things I'm trying to bring together and trying to create a theoretical and as much as a practical situation where we can help human and shark conflict and even human shark interaction at a much global scale, taking Sundarban just as a place of seeing if this methodology is really working. I hope to take this and talk about this for the rest of the world. So that's what I'm planning to do right now.
That's amazing. I love that. And I hope that I won't say I hope, you will be successful. I know that you will be.
Thank you, my friend.
It's a beautiful thing. And so you're teaching this at the university you were a professor at? And is this like?
Yeah, so I'm a professor of psychology at SIST Nivedita University in Kolkata. And I'm also, like I said, the director of the lab, Transdisciplinary Lab. And yeah, it's very engaging and trying to bring out the students and making them think differently. I'm also right now I'm creating our transdisciplinary human shark research methodology, which I'm calling Shark Human Holistic Research and Knowledge System, which I am now the aim is to teach this methodology globally at different universities and create a course. So primarily I'm looking at Europe. I'm talking with some universities in Germany, other places. And yeah, that is definitely the way forward for, something like this.
Brilliant. I love that. That's wonderful. I'm going to keep watching your work and see how this unfolds, because I know it's going to be important. And it is crucial to address the challenges in shark conservation and find sustainable solutions to this human shark conflict that is going on. And this is a big question, but what is the best way to tackle this complex issue? I mean, it's a question that I ask to all the people that I speak with across all walks of life for, animal advocacy issues.
So couple of things. First and foremost, I'm not a shark biologist. I don't claim to be one. But I think we are there's one fundamental thing that's missing from current shark conservation efforts. That's what I feel. See, there's a lot of social scientific investigation which has actually shown that the negative image of sharks is not helping in the creation and sustainability of legislation for the betterment of sharks. Particularly as we know after Jaws. What most scientists are trying to do is to use knowledge to change that idea, which is very important and it is obviously necessary. But here's the thing, that we have to go back to how this image was created. This image was not created because of some misinformation or disinformation, even for that matter. It was created because that particular film was able to tap on to our emotional reaction in such a way that is embedded in our cultural psyche.
Right.
There is also research in decision making in psychological research where we're seeing that emotion creates more avenue for people to buy the extra candy bar, which they don't need. They know, they have the knowledge, they don't need it. But the emotion, look at that candy bar. I think that's what's missing. I think to change this image, because it was created through emotion, we have to attack it through emotion.
Yeah.
We have to create, remind people of our deep connection with sharks at a cultural level, through art, through folklore, through sensory expressions, as much as obviously giving information. I think it has to work together. There's also another part. Well, in recent, global politics, we have seen in certain cases in India, in America, that when certain political parties mention things that were not true, the social media houses put disclaimer that this information may not be true. because they realize the effect of that information on the mass population. So here's my argument that if the negative image that has been fed even now by different sources, including documentaries, well, mockumentaries and stuff like that, which are causing serious degradation to the population of sharks, and hence degradation to the global marine environment, and hence to the terrestrial environment. Why isn't there a disclaimer like that when images of sharks are shown? There must be images, disclaimer that this image does not necessarily represent the truth. I
Right.
think that has to come to policy. That has to.
That's an excellent point. It's not something that I'd thought about. That's great. Yeah, I'm going to start, thinking about that more and maybe bringing that up more through whatever work that I'm doing and people that I talk to. And
Appreciate it.
that's it. Yeah, of course. This is all really important stuff. So I appreciate having this conversation with you, which is why we do this, so that we can, bring about awareness, education, and and dispel misinformation. So
Yep.
it's really important, and changing policy is also extremely important. It is a huge piece of this work across the globe. Honestly, it's happening everywhere. So everybody is responsible for taking action
Yep.
and being aware. And once you're aware, we should not look away or pretend that we don't know. You can't unknow it. You can
Yep.
pretend, but that is called willful ignorance, and
Yeah.
it's not something that we should be, making part of our life anymore.
Yeah.
Not at this point. We don't really
Yeah.
have the
We
luxury.
can't afford to. Yeah, exactly.
No,
Yeah.
no,
We
not
can't.
for
Yeah.
anything. So thank you for that. And your research into human shark conflict in the Sundarban region is also really significant. And I wanted to talk about that for a bit. If you could tell us why it's so important and what you found out. I mean, you started to allude to some of that before, but maybe you can go into a little bit further.
Yeah. So let me come to it uh, from the very end, actually. I just finished my field work, which lasted about 4 years. And you know what I realized? This story is a story about loss. This research should have been done 20 years back. I'm late 2 decades because by now the people who were affected by the shark bites and the sharks themselves, who could have been potentially there for millions of years, they're gone. These shark bites or shark attacks, whatever we choose to call them, has happened uh, for the last century, but most of them stopped the last 20 years. That's because the sharks decreased. They were decimated from that region.
Mm.
Strange thing is that because Sundarban is well known globally for the Royal Bengal tiger.
Okay.
So that's why, the tigers, the keystone species, they always got the favor. But no one wanted to know about sharks. One very interesting thing that I still have not figured out is so there are three major predators in that region, right? So there are tigers, there are crocodiles, and sharks. So tigers and sharks have not only academic, scholastic, but also cultural representation, be it through folklore, be it through art, whatever. There is not a single representation of sharks in the folklore, let alone academics. I've still not figured out why that is, being a major predator. But yeah, there are literally hundreds of cases of shark bites that has happened, which were hardly documented. By the time I started doing it 4 years back, like I'm saying, it's already too late. But I was able to get a lot of information, and my purpose in the thing is to, as much as I can, bring out their stories. Um, how women who suffered shark bites 20 years back still feel the pain even now.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and there's post-traumatic stress where a woman was bitten by a shark again 20, 25 years back. Her entire life, she could not even get in the pond to take a bath because she was so afraid of the water.
Wow.
There are a couple of times I even faced people who had dementia. And I remember my last interview, I went there and this lady who was bitten by a shark 20 years back, and I couldn't finish that interview, my friend, because all she was doing is sitting in front of me and crying.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So yeah, it's one thing hearing about it, but being there is yeah, it's something else. So I'm just trying to bring stories of both the sharks and the women. Primarily, it was the women who were bitten by sharks in front of the
Why?
video.
Why do
Oh,
you think
well,
that is?
yeah, the major reason for that was most of this women was engaged in mean is like prawn lava. So they were engaged in prawn lava harvesting. So, the men went into the jungle,
I see.
and when the women still wanted to make some money, sometimes for $2 in an entire day, that's all they'll earn. But they'll get in the water with a net and just walk across the river. That's where these bites actually happened.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's unimaginable. It's unimaginable. So yeah,
So are there still sharks left there today, or have they all been
no one knows. No one knows. That's
really?
the thing. Yep, that's the thing. There are some rules. There are some protocols that yeah, you can't kill sharks and all those things. But that's the thing. No one knows. I
Interesting.
mean, I was shocked by the lack of information.
So you're still doing research there?
It's officially I finished my work, and I'm just about finished my book on
Okay.
this topic. Should be done in the next couple of months. So
Interesting.
yeah,
All right. Well, we'll have to look out for that.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. That is a fascinating topic, to be sure.
But you know what? This is not just Sundarbans. We know for a fact that there are other small communities all around the world where these things have happened. They've hardly been documented. So I welcome researchers to come up, talk about these, and let's get these things out in the public and let's talk about them. Because again, it's not just the human who are affected, it's the sharks themselves. And whenever there is human animal conflict, it's always a human human conflict.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to figure out.
Right. Right. Definitely. Well, if anybody can get down to the bottom of it, I have my money on you, Raj. So I'll keep looking out for that. Um, I know people are going to want to know. They're probably extremely interested. If you could share some of your time conducting some of the cool research, doing white shark cage diving ethnography. Have any interesting stories in that time?
Um, well, yeah, so I was based in New Zealand with my friend Susan Lucas. Susan and I Susan was supporting me the entire project. She was my not only my research assistant, but she took care of everything when I was there. So yeah, a lot of my time from 2014 to about 2019, I spent in the very end of New Zealand in Bluff, which is the last stop of the main South Island. And I was working with one of the cage diving operations down there. And what I wanted to know that what was really happening in the human shark interaction. Now, I'll tell you something. So there's this argument that cage diving and operations like this helps demystify sharks and good for the conservation. That is true, but there's a caveat that no one talks about. See, so when I took my data, so I, you know, uh, let's divide in three criterias. I took data about people's perception of the sharks from general population, then people's perception of the sharks before they saw the sharks underwater, and then after they saw them underwater. And it was so cool to see that the same people who had a different perception, higher negative, I mean, more negative attitude towards sharks, had more positive attitude towards sharks after the encounter. But the caveat is people who were coming already had more positive attitude towards sharks than the general population.
Ah,
So people who were coming and who we want to demystify sharks to already had a better attitude towards sharks anyway.
right. So you have to get the people who are not so keen on
Exactly.
sharks to get in the water
If
and
that's possible.
yeah,
If that's possible.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some friends who are like, it's Shark Week. Oh my God. And they watch it, but they're like nail biting.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't
had
think
this.
they get in.
I really doubt. I had this I encountered one Indian man, Sunny. I'll never forget his name. And like he was there, and he was really petrified of the sharks that get in the water. I said, Sunny, you're Indian man. Our country's name is at stake. Get in the water. I'm going to support you. It was really funny, but yeah, but that's the thing.
Did you get them in?
Yeah. But
Oh,
when you
good.
see them, when you see a white shark underwater, it is unlike anything you can visualize, you can write song about, you can watch movies. It is indeed a spiritual experience. Because that strength, it is unlike anything you can explain it. You get at the same time, you get a sense of inferiority complex, looking at their presence, the same you feel awe. But interestingly, from a multi-species perspective, so a person's attitude toward the sharks and the change of it not only changes from them choosing to get in the water, but depends on that particular shark who's coming to the cage. And also, that shark could behave differently in front of two different cages, just for example, right? So there were initially, when I was doing my fieldwork, there were two different shark boats there. The same shark would behave very relaxed in front of our boat and our cage, but would react very, quote unquote, aggressively in front of other cage. And I used to think, okay, why is that happening? Later, I realized the way the shark wranglers in the boats were handling the bait, because in our case, they were just keeping the bait. When the shark was coming, they just took it out. Didn't want to entice the shark. In the other boat, they were keeping it till the last moment, and the shark come lunging at it, and then they took it out. So it means also the people who are in our cage would have a different experience and a different perception of the shark as opposed to people who are in the other cage.
Yeah, that's important. That's really
Yeah.
important. It's the
So
energy of
yeah. So the individuality of the shark was playing as important a part, and their interaction with the human beings was playing as important a part in our perception than the general practice itself. That's why I was using a multi-species perspective, where the shark's feeling, the shark's moods, the shark's activity was important to consider as much as the human beings involved.
Yeah, I can totally understand that and relate to that. I mean, I work with animals. I am also a Reiki practitioner. I work with pets, people's, companion animals, and I had a grooming academy, and it always started with the energy. People needed to understand. I needed to convey to them how important it was for them to understand their own energy, and then understand the energy of the animals, and how they approach the animal was everything. And we aren't speaking the same language. We don't speak cat or dog. They don't speak human. I mean, they can understand a few words, sure, with commands and whatever, but the language of energy is one that is, it just transcends everything. We can communicate to each other that way without any need for words. And if you're having a bad, crappy day and you come into work that way, and it's the animal is going to respond in kind. Either they're going to be stressed out. If they're already stressed out, you're going to stress them out more. And so it just, to me, it makes perfect sense in what you're saying, and that can be applied to anything across the board. Humans dealing with humans, with us, with other animals around the world, and is important for how we should be responding and taking care of the animal kingdom, at least as far as I can see. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's a very fascinating story, and helps paint a picture and helps people, I would think and hope, understand more about sharks. And I would like to move into talking a little bit about your artwork, because you really are a fascinating person, Raj. You have kind of a renaissance man. I mean, you are involved in so many different things, and then to be an artist as well. And obviously you said you have, artists in your background, but I did have the opportunity to take a look at some of your artwork, which was really moving. And a lot of it, most of it, what I saw was about sharks. And the one that really grabbed me was the mother. And I just thought that was really a beautiful piece and very compelling. And so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind your art and the endeavors there. And is there a particular piece that is extremely maybe powerful or meaningful for you, significant in your life in some way? And maybe
it's interesting that you picked that one up, the mother. That one was a 6 feet by 4 feet oil painting, a mixed medium painting. Um, and yeah, I remember the first time I exhibited it. There was this lady who, and she was probably with her husband, and she was standing in front of the painting, and she was asking her husband, "Why is he calling this a mother? What's mother about a shark?" And that was very interesting about, but like I said, by that time, I think sharks started becoming my language. And it's a very, very personal journey. And, like I said, I intentionally moved away from art uh, because that just wasn't my journey. Recently, I've again come back to art, but not necessarily as a painter myself, but I think one of the biggest thing that happens is when artists speak with scientists, they're often looked down with a little bit of condescending. Let's be fair. That's what happens. Because artists talk about very artsy stuff, and scientists are science.
Yeah.
That's just the truth, whether we like to accept it or not. What I'm trying to do is talk from a psychological and evolutionary part as to why art is important in conservation, why it helps us, change perceptions, how it helps us connect with our roots, and hence think differently. I'll ask you something. How many, you know, movies about the good whales we have seen? Yeah.
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 There's
Just from the top of our head, we've seen Free Willy, right? If nothing
right.
else.
Sure.
Yeah. How many good movies about sharks have we actually seen?
Yeah.
Such as the animations. So
Right. And even there they're depicted. You don't usually get the animated
yeah,
sharks as, as the
yeah. So
so
so that's where art comes in,
yeah,
because it still is feeding into the same idea.
the emotion.
Yeah, and also see our brain, sensory art, the right side of the brain or the left side of the brain. I mean, there's a lot of argument if they actually exist, but generally speaking, yeah, we have the operational side, and then we have the artistic side. Both are creative sides, but one is operational creativity, the other is artistic creativity. So whenever we're creating art, particularly sensory art, there's two kinds of communication that's going on. One communication that's happening between intercommunication between individuals. There's also intra-communication that's happening between, those sides of brains where things and emotions we can't verbalize, but we are trying to communicate. So that's why art is so important, particularly in conservation. Our relationship with the marine environment, our relationship with our soil, with the fish, all of that, their sensations, which are important data. I urge my scientist friends to talk about data, emotions being data.
Yeah.
That has to be tapped into, which are important for conservation. That's how I'm coming back to art.
That's incredible. I think that you are in a really phenomenal position with having both sides of, you've got one leg of your life in science and psychology and the other in the arts, and you can bridge that gap and bring it together to really tap into people's emotions with this stuff. So maybe you're bringing that back now. It's all coming
Yeah.
together for a purpose at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? Again, I'm not alone. There are so many people like that, and I'm trying to invite them all in. And also, one of the things about transdisciplinary research that is important to me, human shark transdisciplinary research important to me, is there's a lot of people who are not biologists, because traditionally, we only look at shark biologists whenever we're thinking about, shark scientists. But, people who have, experience in history, in anthropology, in psychology, I want to invite all of them because all of them have so much to give to shark research.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's pivotal.
Yeah, I think that's super smart and probably the right approach. So I think that would be amazing. Some kind of like shark conference, some global shark conference. But
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, that'd be great. Well, we're getting close to the time where we need to wrap up here a little bit, but I was wondering if we could bring this together on a really great note. And if you have any advice for listeners, people who are really, usually, I get the people who are already animal advocates and they want to help and do good work and spread that, love wherever they go. And so if there's any advice you'd like to give to them and how they can make a difference in shark advocacy, what you might say.
All right. So you know what? I'm going to use what you said right now and just say two things. Both among my favorite philosophers. One is Dostoevsky, when he said that beauty is going to save the world. Beauty will save the world. And Christopher Hitchens, he also said, at the end, don't forget the love bit. I think that's the way forward. But we have to be strategic. That explain to scientists, explain to the global population, this is not just frou-frou. The love, the beauty is important, has important part to play in conservation, and basically explain to them scientifically and logically how we can incorporate all of these together to create a world where not only humans and sharks survive, but people from different places, different ideologies, different experiences can come together to support our sharks.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautifully put. And I thank you for that. And I hope those words resonate with folks. And thank you all for tuning in today to the Rising Lioness podcast. We've explored the amazing world of sharks with Dr. Raj Sekhar Aich, who shared his passion for these majestic creatures and his groundbreaking work in transdisciplinary human shark research. Let's take inspiration from Dr. Shekhar's work and take action to raise awareness. Share this episode and commit to a world where sharks and our oceans thrive. Remember, everyone, every small action does count, and we can all make a difference in shaping a future where the beauty of our oceans remains intact. Thank you for being part of this transformative journey, and let's rise together for a world that celebrates and protects all living beings. Until next time, stay safe and take care, everybody. And Raj, thank you so much for joining us today. This was amazing, and I have learned a lot that I intend to share, and through my work here, through the podcast, and just in talking to people in general. And I definitely have a newfound appreciation for sharks through you and through working with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're an incredible person, and your work is noble. So thank you, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I know you will. I don't think I need to say that, but I very much appreciate you, and I know that many others do as well, and I know the sharks do. So that's all.
Thank you. I mean, I thank you for this opportunity, and anyone has anything to talk about, they're always welcome to come. I'm available online. I'll be happy to speak with anyone, any questions, any advice, it'll be my pleasure. So thank you.
Wonderful. And we'll attach all of your links, important links. So folks, you can find Raj and all of his good work. Just click on the link in our YouTube, the YouTube description. And to all of our listeners and to you, Raj, I wish you all a wonderful, beautiful, blessed day. And to that I say goodbye and namaste until next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.